Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. Well, I want to talk about a very interesting and really problematic situation for people that have this particular type of illness, which is called asthma. My wife had asthma for many years, and it almost died from it on several occasions. I believe Art Bell's wife died from an asthmatic attack as well. So, this is something that happens in a lot of people with asthma. A lot of people are using what are called inhalers. Now, I'm not talking, what I'm going to give you is information that was from a medical doctor. I am not a medical doctor. I'm not making any claims, but this kind of information should get out there. And I'm going to try and find links to the original information I found. And of course, I went through this personally again. So it's something that happened to me personally. It's not hearsay. I'm a professional researcher. I've been involved in research for over 50 years in all aspects of the alternative, including a lot of alternative health and many other areas. So I'm a very credible source, and not only that, this is not hearsay. Now, most things you get out there, particularly when it comes to phenomena or healing, comes from third parties. Did it happen? Well, I've been to a lot of people trying to find cures for asthma and other things for my wife, and I got this from the horse's mouth, and everybody should know about it. If you know anybody that has asthma, you should look into this. Asthma is terrifying. Terrifying for the people around the person having the asthma attack, and obvious for the asthmatic. Just think, you can't breathe. This is one thing that we all must do or we die. I think that's kind of a overstatement of a fact, but just think, if you can't catch your breath, how dangerous and terrifying that is. And if you want to get a feel of it, well, go into a pool and dive down in your pool and then wait until you run out of air. And then when you're panicking because you need air, don't go to the top for a minute or so. Find out how that really puts the terror in you. Now, fortunately, regular medical science, which is I have always supported if it works, and of course, medical science does work to a certain degree. We have, again, the usual corruption problems where people only care about money. But asthma medications and the inhalers that are out there will save your life. So make sure, if you are an asthmatic, that you have these handy and can use them. It will save your life. It saved my wife's life on hundreds of occasions. Now, it's very frightening, and it depends what environment you're in. Is it too hot? Is it too dusty? Are there problems out there? All of these things can be kicked off by a whole number of reasons. Maybe even stuffy beach air does it. But my wife, who had terrible asthma attacks and had to be rushed to hospitals in her in her 20s and so forth, almost died on a couple occasions to get air back into her lungs. And this was very dangerous. This again kept going on for most of her life, having one serious attack after another, barely being able to come back from these horrible experiences, and you could call them, quote, near death, because it certainly was, and you can't do anything. Hopefully the inhalers will do the job, which they tend to do. Sadly, because of the greed and the lack of proper credibility by your governmental officials, asthma inhalers, which used to be around $35, are now several hundred. Why should you have the right to breathe? That's only for rich people, right? But $40 billion to the Nazi Ukraine is certainly well worth it. We want to keep them going. So the whole idea is that all these things that go with that, which are another issue. Let's get back to these. So there are these inhalers which are life-saving, but they are something that may or may not work for you. One day it's going to not work from you, and you're going to be like Art Bell, the talk radio host who is now passed. His wife died from an asthma attack, plain and simple. Now, these things happen. She was even a Filipino, so she wasn't really even someone who you could say was an American with bad diets or everything. She was a Filipino, or Filipina, as they like to talk with these ridiculous languages. So the whole idea is that that's how she lost her life. Pretty sad. And this, of course, is, I don't know what year that was. It wasn't that long ago in terms of its modern history. I don't know, around 2000, whatever that may be. So this happens and happens a lot of times. I wonder how many people that we worry about a lot of stupid things out there every day don't have their medications, whether it's insulin or asthma inhalers, and they die from it. So this happens all the time from a country that is really sitting in buckets of gold, but the poor people or the people who are ill don't get what they need. Very, very sad world we live in, and something we need to work on, not into fantasies as so many people seem to be involved in out there that spend all their time researching 40-year-old murder cases like the Son of Sam, otherwise known as the lowest scumbuckets out there. So all of these things that actually go on there are the actual things that we have to look at. Now, there is an actual interesting alternative treatment. Now, we found this particular medical doctor. This is a licensed medical doctor, who's in West Los Angeles, California. And I just looked him up. He's still there, and I'm assuming he's still doing this treatment. But this treatment is based on trigger points. Now, this is something I was planning on getting into after getting these amazing effects from it, but never really did. But there are a few books on trigger points. Now, what are trigger points? Well, these are areas of the body that kind of, you could almost call them acupuncture spots, where these actually tend to control certain areas of your body. And for one reason or another, these are kind of seizing up. And since they lead to things like your bronchioles, they close your bronchioles off. Now, so the whole idea is, acupuncture opens up energy flow to particular areas of the body. We also have acupressure, reflexology. This is all part of where this comes in, but the trigger points are where there are major trigger point areas that will trigger your asthma. And it will kill you or could kill you. Now, you find this trigger point. Now, for asthmatics, this tends to be in the right shoulder, the back of your right shoulder. There's a point there about 2 inches from the top down where the trigger point is. And what you do is you put in some, I'm not sure what the injection is, some sort of Novocaine type thing, but it tends to stop the stimulation of that trigger point. So when that wants to, and the way you can kind of visualize it or understand it better, is a trigger point is like having a pinched nerve. The pinched nerve then causes you all sorts of problems. What do? Well, you find that pinched nerve and you relax it with a relaxant Novocaine type injection. So you relax that particular area, and guess what? It can't tense up. The nerve is no longer pinched. That pinched nerve now doesn't trigger your breathing problems. Now, I'm giving people here is gold. This will save someone's life, and you'll be able to do it. And the beauty of this is several. First of all, I went through this. Now, my wife was an extreme case, and she got it and immediately started to get good results from it. And it lasted for a long time. She eventually had to go back, I think, after a year or so and get another shot and never had to return again. But her actual asthma attacks stopped completely. Now, every once in a while, there's a little tightening there, and rarely, and I'm talking about maybe in the last 5 years, she had to use her inhaler once because of some sort of stress problem. But the bottom line is, after getting these shots and following it up after a year or so to get another shot, completely and totally solved the problem. Mind-screwing. Now, you're talking about a life-threatening illness. This is done by a medical licensed doctor in the state of California in the Los Angeles area, West Los Angeles. The doctor's name is Dr. Gruenn. He's a German doctor with a Swedish wife. His name is spelled Grunnen, Gruenn. Dr. Gruenn, West Los Angeles. Now, I'm going to try and post information there, and I'm going to try and there was an original article that we found that was in some paper, some magazine, which talked about this treatment that another doctor had developed. And he's one of the few people in the United States that can do this. Now, here's the other kicker. It's very inexpensive. Now, when we went there about 20 years ago, I think it was $90 to get the shot. and there's a little bit of conference there, etc. But it was very inexpensive for something that once it's done, is done. Maybe you have to go back in a year or two and get another $90 shot. Well, that's not even a pair of fancy shoes, is it? Running shoes, which can run hundreds. So all that stuff that ever went out there was that reality. So we need to understand that in terms of what an amazing tool this is. This could save your life. This is basically the solution to asthma, and you need to follow this up. Now, I'm going to try and post things at the bottom here, but these are trigger points. Now, there are books on this and everything else. Another thing I meant to get into. I just don't have the time for this stuff. And unfortunately, I've wasted a lot of time researching nonsensical stuff and being brought into stupid research. I want to get back into things that really matter. And the saving of someone's life that has asthma is certainly something that can be done right now, is 100% legal and done by a medical doctor. So you just can't beat this. So I'm not a medical doctor. I'm telling you my personal experience with this from a medical doctor. This isn't some quasi. This isn't a chiropractor. This isn't a chi guy. This is a MD, a medical doctor licensed in the United States and in the state of California that does this and does it at a fair price for everybody that needs it. So all of this is lots of fun and interesting facts when you experience this personally. And I've experienced this personally. I have been through this. This isn't hearsay. This isn't Buddy down the lane. And I am a qualified person who's written over 35 books, 5 courses, and I've been involved in the research industry of alternative everything for over 40 years now. So this is very valuable information. I've never heard of this from anybody else. But basically, this is your solution for asthma. If you have asthma, this is good. So if you have to travel there, or maybe you can get a referral from that doctor if you live in another state or even in other places of the world, this is something that is the solution for this particular problem. It worked for a very difficult case of a person who almost died 3 or 4 times from asthma attacks. Look into this. If you know anybody with asthma, you make sure that you go to this particular doctor and find out what you can do, or if there's someone near you, or if you have to travel to Los Angeles, and you won't have to spend much time there. You just have to go in there with your consultation, get your shot, and you're gone. It's as simple as that. Maybe you have to go back again. I'm not sure if you had to go back to 2 of these or not. From I remember, it was just 1 shot, and then if it kicks up again, you have to go. And that's what happened after a year or 2. Got another shot, and it has been gone forever now. All because of relaxing a trigger point. And there's trigger points all over your body for different problems. So if you have liver problems, other problems, you have trigger points that can be dealt with there to take the clogged energy out of there, to stop that kind of pinched nerve, which I'm using as something to kind of clarify the situation. Get that nerve unpinched, get that actual flow of energy restored to that particular organ, and this works. It works for a very scary condition, a condition that was basically cured for less than a couple of $100, which is not even one asthma inhaler of this day any longer. And to have the freedom of that and have the security of not having to be actually terrified with the possible attack that you could die from, which happens very often, is certainly a gift from heaven. So check this out. People that have any kind of questions or anything, you can always contact me. I'm going to try and put all the information down under this particular lecture so that you can be able to take care of someone within your family who you could possibly save their life. This is no joke. I recommend this at the highest possible level. I've been through it. I've seen it personally. I've seen how it's now worked for over 25 years. This is it, people. Look into this. Take care of yourself. Prosper to higher levels. Learn to know and become part of the path of truth. And here's truth, because truth works, and you can't argue with success.